Merhabalar. İsmim Özge GÖKÇE AKTAŞ. Avrupa Birliği Türkiye Delegasyonu'nda 7 yıldır çevre sektör yöneticisi olarak çalışıyorum. Aslında bu sunuşu size komisyondan DG Environment'tan bir arkadaşımız yapacaktı. Ancak kendisi katılma imkanı bulamadı. Onun sunuşunu ben yapacağım. Sunuşun aslında riayet etmek için İngilizce yapacağım sunuşu ama soru ve cevap esnasında arzu ederseniz Türkçe'de yanıtlayabilirim. To give the initial perspective about the EU plastic strategy, I mean, we first focus on the SDGs and the circular economy concept. Basically, this is all known by this very well-informed audience, so I will not go dwelling on it too much. But the issue is that the Commission has established an EU action plan for the circular economy in 2015, where the idea was to link economy and environment and transition towards the circular economy through the maintaining the value of the products, materials and resources, minimizing waste generation, boosting competitiveness, and bringing economic, social, and environmental gains. I mean, this is not news for you. It's the global plastic production, starting from the 60s, from 15 million tons to 2014 to 311, and Özge gave a more recent value of 360 million tons for 2018. Well, the projections for 2050 is for 1,200 million tons. We're talking about a huge amount. The plastics industry of the future we want is a smart, an innovative, and a sustainable one, with economic opportunities and social innovation, and of course by protecting the environment. As you are also aware that there is this European strategy for plastics, which is established in the context of the circular economy package. This package was adopted in 2018, and it has four main aims. The first one is to improve the economics and quality of the plastics recycling. And the second one is to drive investments and innovation towards a more circular solution in the plastics industry. And one of the biggest issues is about the litter. The waste and litter is an important focus for the European Commission, and the idea behind the plastic strategy is also to reduce the plastic waste and littering. And through doing this through global action and not by themselves. Oops, sorry. In the first chapter of the plastic strategy, there are some targets that are established. All plastics packaging will be reusable or recyclable by 2030 in the EU. And how is that going to happen? We should focus on design for circularity. There will be some changes in the essential requirements of the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive. There is consideration of eco-modulation of producers' fees, the extended producer's responsibility. We're talking about improved separate collection of waste and sorting, where we're expecting the guidelines to be established by the end of 2019. There's a specific focus on food contact materials without any compromises on health. It will be there is also another guideline considered for this, where how it can be improved in plastics, in recycled plastics. The quality standards needs to be considered. There's already a report by the Standardization Authority of the EU that was established in 2019, and it will be used on how to further the issue. And there's the issue of recycled content in new products. The strategy also came with a Circular Plastics Alliance. In the plastic strategy, the aim was to have, by 2025, 10 million tons of recycled plastics into new products in the EU market. So far, 70 pledges have been made. on the supply side, it amounts to 11 million tons of recycled plastics. However, on the demand side, it appears that it's going to be only 6.4 million tons. So there is a gap. And the Circular Plastics Alliance, with the businesses, aims to strengthen this match between the supply and the demand for recycled plastics. As of 2019, 20 September, there are already 100 organizations that have signed it, but there is still room for improvement. As I said, the issue is not only about the improvement of, there's also the issue of reducing the waste. And the EU is now focusing on it from three angles: from the microplastics angle, and the microplastic pollution, the intentionally added products, and the unintentional release. For the intentionally added microplastics products, there is an ECHA report already, and which agrees that the health and environmental risks justify an EU-wide restriction. And the issue is now diverted to scientific committees, and it's likely that it will be legislated by 2021. For the unintentional releases, currently the sector discussions are ongoing, and there is no current legislative development. Also, the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive is under revision at the moment, which will also have some relation to the microplastics pollution. For the macroplastics, there is the directive, which we are going to have, we'll talk in a few minutes, the single-use plastics. For the biodegradable plastics, as it was discussed earlier this morning, yes, they are part of the strategy, but it's not yet clear how they will be handled. At the moment, the issue is considered by the chief scientific advisors, and we are expecting to have a guideline by the end of next year. We also want to drive investments and innovation towards circular solutions. 95% of the value of the plastic packaging material is lost after its very short use of it. So it amounts to 70 to 100 billion euros annually. And also plastics production and incineration, one of the methods of, it's also very much environmentally unfriendly in the sense that it can create a lot of carbon dioxide emissions and has an impact on global climate change. The Strategic Research Innovation Agenda for Plastics is, they have a report published on how these investments can be diverted. And the issues that we want to focus on: circularity by design, circularity by recycling, and circularity by alternative feedstocks, and how other materials can be used in replacing plastics. And also the chemical cycling. By 2020, the life cycle assessments are expected to be carried out for the development of alternative feedstocks to make plastics by the Commission. We also don't want to do this alone. We want to work together with the rest of the world. So the Commission is already providing its support and is receiving some support from the international community. The multilateral initiatives on plastics that you see on the screen, the UN Environmental Assembly Ministerial Declaration says that they aim to significantly reduce single-use plastics by 2030. The IMO has an action plan against plastic litter from ships. The Basel Convention is focusing on better control of international trade in plastic waste, especially hazardous waste. And cooperation funding is increasing, and we are more and more focusing on the issue. We've all seen these pictures. We see it every day, and we also see it when we go to the beach. The issue is the single-use plastics directive focuses on marine litter. And there was this question about why it was focusing only on the 10 single-use plastic items that is considered to be less used by the public, and whether it is some sort of greenwashing attempt by the Commission to divert the attention. The idea is not like that. The idea is that these are the most found items in beaches of the European Union. These are the 10 most found items. So by focusing on these 10 items, the Commission wants to have a proportionate approach and also a symbolic act towards reducing the consumption of these 10 items. So 70% covered all marine litter, and the 10 single-use plastics are the 43% of it, and the fishing gear, abandoned fishing gear, is 27%. And there's also room for improvement for there, and there's also legislative action on that. For every kilometer of the Mediterranean, you can find approximately 40 pieces of litter, and mostly it is plastic. So the directive is adopted in July 2019, and it has two focus. There's the items with available sustainable alternatives that will have to be changed with less harmful alternatives, market bans. There are items with no clear alternatives, where the focus will be towards preventive measures and better waste management. The reduction in consumption is foreseen for food containers, cups for beverages, including the covers and the lids. And the market restriction bans focuses on all products made of oxo-degradable plastic, cups, food and beverage containers made of EPS, and the items that you can see, like the ear cotton buds, straws, plastic cutlery, and the sticks of the balloons. Not the balloons themselves, just the sticks. And the restrictions are not on the product, but on the content of it. There's also product design requirements for tethered caps and lids, and to ensure that they remain attached to the beverage containers and bottles. You can find 2 to 3 times more caps than bottles in the plastic waste. And the recycled plastic content is also another focus of the Single-Use Plastics Directive. For single-use beverage bottles, an average per member state, by 2025, 25% of the PET bottles will be from recycled plastic, and by 2030, 30% for all plastic bottles. The directive also focuses on extended producer responsibility. For food beverage containers, cups, packets, wrappers, lightweight carrier bags, tobacco products with filters, the producers will have to cover the cost of waste prevention, waste management, litter cleanup, and data gathering. For the wet pipes and balloons, waste prevention and litter cleanup cost only, as the remaining were considered to be too costly. For the fishing gear, the extended producers' responsibility schemes are expected to cover the cost of separate collection and further treatment of waste fishing gear. The member states will set a national collection target and monitor fishing gear with a view to a later EU-wide collection target. And there's work ongoing to achieve harmonized standards for the circular design of the fishing gear. For separate collection, the directive also has another target that by 2025, 77% of the plastic beverage bottles will be collected separately. And by 2029, it will have to go up to 90%. The directive is an ambitious and enthusiastic directive, and it has a challenging timeline. It is expected to cover, by 2030, 9 implementing acts, 2 guidelines, and 2 standardization requests from the Standardization Authority. We can also see some global impact already. India is banning single-use plastics from 2022. Canada has an action on single-use plastics based on the EU directive. China has created a strategy on plastics, including action on single-use plastics, and since 2017, they're not exporting plastics anymore. 68% of the countries in the world have in place restrictions for the use of plastic bags, including Turkey. And some of the cities are also restricting the use of single-use plastics and promoting alternatives beyond their national governments. The EU has received some global recognition for that. In the World Economic Forum, they have received the Award for Circular Economy in the public sector, and the Ombudsman Award for Good Administration in 2019 through the Comprehensive Strategy for Reducing Plastics Pollution. You already know that we have an upcoming new commission coming to the European Union at the moment, and the new president-elect, Ursula von Leyen, in her statements, has focused a lot on the Green Deal for Europe. And in her words, she is expecting a future-ready economy and a new industrial strategy, and to become a world leader in circular economy and clean technologies. This is her vision for the EU. The Circular Economy Action Plan will be renewed in her term, focusing on more sustainable resource use, especially in resource-intensive and high-impact sectors, such as the textiles and construction, which is not covered currently under the circular economy. Europe is expected to also lead on the issue of single-use plastics and the fight against plastic waste by tackling microplastics. And the Commission expects to move towards a zero-pollution ambition and a cross-cutting strategy to protect its citizens' health from environmental degradation and pollution, addressing air and water quality, hazardous chemicals, industrial emissions, pesticides, and endocrine disruptors. Thank you for listening to me, and that will be all from me. Thank you.